everyone, welcome back to the Fearless Home Gardening channel, where we give home gardeners information and support they need to start a garden fearlessly. If you're new to the channel, my name is Amanda and this is Bella. Today we're going to talk about a few specific things that you need to think about when you actually start planning out your garden. Last week we talked about some general ideas and thoughts that you need to keep in mind while you're deciding if you even want to start a garden or not. But over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about a few more specific things that you need to keep in mind. There is a lot of information in these videos, so grab your notebook and a pen because there is a lot to take in. Oh, by the way, if you haven't checked out last week's video, I definitely recommend watching that one first and then coming back here. There's the link for the video. All right, let's get into it. Number one, make a list. Literally, make a wish list of everything you want to grow. Don't worry too much about what grows best in your area and all that right now. Just make a list of everything you want to grow. Then take some time to do the research on the plants that you've listed. Don't forget to include things like flowers and herbs that can help bring in the beneficial bugs as well. When you're doing your research, make sure to make note of any specific needs each plant might have. This is incredibly important for the next step, which is mapping out your garden efficiently. When you're researching your plants, try to keep these 7 questions in mind. You're killing me here, Belle. Sorry. Number 1, do the seeds for each plant need to be direct sown, or should they be started indoors and then transplanted out later? Number 2, does the plant require full sun or partial shade? Things like lettuce do really well in an area with some shade because full sun can make the lettuce bitter and bolt up super quick. Number 3, how many days does it take for each plant to fully mature? Some plants take 30 days to mature and some take 120. This is something really good to keep in mind for succession planting. Number 4, decide on which plants need to be trellised. Indeterminate tomatoes and cucumbers grow really well on trellises, while things like peppers might only need a little bit of support. Make sure to include room for trellises and supports in your garden plan. Number 5, how much room does each mature plant require? Some plants like squash and pumpkins are total space hogs. The last thing you want to do is grow a pumpkin or a zucchini plant in the middle of a pepper or bean patch. Some plants take up a lot of room and can shadow out other plants, so this is really good to know ahead of time. Number 6, note if the plant is heat tolerant or cold hardy. Some plants like tomatoes and herbs thrive in the heat, while others like broccoli and cabbage, not so much. That's because tomatoes and most herbs are incredibly heat tolerant, while cabbages and broccoli are what are called cold hardy, meaning they hold up well and actually grow better in colder temperatures. Tomatoes will not hold up in cold temperatures, and neither will some herbs like basil. And finally, number 7, remember your why. Did you leave me a comment in the last video letting me know what your why was? If not, go ahead and leave one in this video down below. I would love to know why you're starting your garden and what you're growing. That's your list of things that you should keep in mind when you're researching the plants that you want to put in your garden. I didn't list this last thing in my notes, but as a side thought, also make sure to note if each plant is an annual, a perennial, or a biennial. You'll want to make sure to plant perennials where you really want them to grow back year after year. Thank you. Next, know your directions. It's really important to know which way is north, south, east, and west, and which way the sun goes across your yard. I'm sorry, am I boring you? I recommend noting the directions on your garden map as well. Now, if you live in the northern hemisphere, there are a few things to keep in mind before you put your plants or seeds into the ground. Are you leaving again? Oh my goodness. Sorry, with Amazon delivering my grow lights, she's just doing her job. So, like I was saying, if you live in the northern hemisphere, there are a few things to keep in mind before you put your plants or seeds into the ground. If you live in the southern hemisphere, just flip these, but I live in the northern hemisphere, so that's what I'm going to explain. Number 1, make sure you're planting your smaller plants like cabbages and beans on the south side of your garden. If you plant them on the north side of your garden, while you have things like tomatoes or corn or cucumbers on the south side, which are taller, the beans and the cabbage are going to get shadowed out most of, if not all of, the day. Number 2, keep in mind that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. If you have plants that do better with late day, less intense sun, maybe consider planting those on the west side of your garden with some taller plants that love early morning or all day sun on the east side. That way, the taller plants can block the early morning sun from the shorter ones on the west side, but they can still get a full day of sun since the shorter plants won't block out the sun later in the day. Every single garden is unique and has its own set of challenges and advantages, so plan out your garden according to what works best in your yard. Remember, if something isn't planted in the right spot this year, just make a note of it and fix it next year. It's not a big deal. Do the best you can with what you have, and remember to just enjoy the journey. You are making this look thrilling, let me tell you. Next on the list of planning out your garden is to make a garden map. After you've done your research and you've decided exactly where your garden is going to be, the watering method that is best for your situation, and what type of gardening method you're going to use, it's a good idea to get in the habit of actually mapping out your garden. So let's talk about a couple hints about mapping out your garden just to get you started. First, actually go outside and take measurements. Don't just estimate. I mean, you can if you want to, or you could even just go out in the spring and plant everything all willy-nilly wherever it'll fit. I've done that as well. However, through trial and error, a lot of error, I've learned that it makes a lot more sense and saves a decent amount of frustration later in the season if you just take the time to map out your garden first. Now you're being ridiculous. Next, grab some graph paper and draw your garden to scale. Don't worry, you're not painting Starry Night here. You don't need to be Picasso or Monet or anything else like that. You just need to get yourself organized so you know exactly what you can grow of what you want to grow in your garden. If you're more computer savvy and you'd rather do this type of thing on an app or on a computer, there are seriously some incredible apps that you can use. I'll leave a link to some of my favorites in the description box below for you as well. Some of these apps are free and some of them you have to pay for, but seriously, they're all freaking amazing. A lot of them will send you notices when you have to plant and harvest and fertilize, while others will show you how many plants you can grow in a specific area. Some of the apps will even tell you which plants grow well together and which don't, and a few are even customizable to your specific hardiness zone by just putting in your zip code. If you're not using an app, you'll need to know how much room each plant actually takes up, which is super easy to find out. You just have to look on the back of the seed packet or on the insert that comes with the plants that you get from the nursery, or even just Google or YouTube are great references again. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is succession planting. I know it's tempting. It is incredibly tempting to put all of your plants into the garden at the same time. You're all happy, you're excited, you want to just throw everything in the ground.
Tomatoes and sweet peas and green beans. It's a dream come true.
But trust me, you do not want to do that. In fact, you shouldn't do that. One of the things that drives me crazy the most is blank spaces in my garden where vegetables could be growing after I've pulled something out. Planning out your garden with succession planting ahead of time can make sure that you will not only have a continuous harvest, but that you also have room for your fall crops as well. So again, like everything else in this video, there are also a few things to keep in mind when planning out your succession plantings. Number one, if you're planting a new crop where you just remove something else, be sure to apply at least a ½ inch of fresh compost between the plantings and then work that into the top inch of soil. Number two, things like radishes, lettuce, beans, carrots, peas, and even dill are really great to plant in succession. All you have to do is just grow some seeds, wait about 2 weeks, and then plant another row or set. Just make sure that you start your seeds early enough so that they'll be ready to go in when you take the other plants out. Don't start a new round of peas in like June or July, because trust me, you won't get any. Start your seeds in the right season. By the same token, don't start your broccoli and cabbage seeds when you should actually be transplanting them into the garden. I did that last year. Make sure you start them ahead of time with plenty of time to get them into the ground for the correct season. With proper planning, this can also be done with things like tomatoes and cabbages and cucumbers and really just about anything if you plan ahead. Now, something to keep in mind, succession planting does not always mean that you plant the same harvest in the same place over and over again. It could also mean that you're planting beans where your spring carrots were, or cabbage where your peas were. Like I said, what drives me crazy is those blank spaces in the garden. You should really have your new plants ready to go into the ground after you pull your old plants out. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really hope you got something out of this video. If you did get some good information and you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button down below. That just lets me know that you like this kind of content and you've got some value out of it. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And while you're there, hit the notifications bell if you haven't done that yet, because when you hit that notifications bell, it will send you an email every time I upload a new video. Yes. Don't forget to check us out on the Fearless Home Gardeners Facebook group. If you're there, thanks so much for being a part of it. Introduce yourself, ask questions, absolutely just jump in and join the conversation at any time. If you haven't joined us yet, please feel free to join us. It's just a worldwide group of, friendly gardeners who are asking questions, getting answers, sharing their accomplishments, and just sharing each other's garden experiences. Remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, be fearless in life, and be fearless in your garden. Until next time, thanks for joining me, guys. Bye. Today, we're going to talk about a few specific things that you need to oh my God. Wow, let's try that again. The compost into the top inch of soil. Sorry. Almost done. All right, let me get this last one done, okay? You're such a goober. If you plant them on the north side of your garden while you have things like tomatoes or corn or cucumbers, you're leaving again, huh?